in advance, pardon my back, everybody. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to thank the Kingston Library for hosting us, and I know this is, let me just move this some stuff over here. Jen, you want to help me out? Sorry. Got to keep it interesting.
Yeah, everyone shake it.
All right. Try that again. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to everybody for being here. Thank you to the Kingston Library for hosting us. And this is a really cool and beautiful new spot here at Kingston Library. So another great addition to a real treasure of our city and our county. You are stuck with me as your MC today, but you're mostly going to hear from other partners and colleagues as we make a major announcement about really our collective community investment and priority on public safety and on justice as the twin imperatives really as we come out of a really difficult 16 plus months of a pandemic. Before I just say a few remarks, I want to welcome and recognize the team and the community members and leaders standing with and at this moment anyway behind me in no particular order, if you'll permit. I want to start with some of the members of this new group that we're going to be announcing today, led by Ulster County Sheriff's Detective Mario Talafiero. Mario, are you? There he is in the back. Saugerties Police Chief Sinagra, Ellenville Police Chief Matrician, Kingston Police Chief Tinty, Kingston Deputy Chief Bonds, New Paltz Chief Lucchesi. I always mispronounce your name, Chief. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get that one of these days. Kingston Police Commissioner and Pastor Mr. Mapes. Ulster County Legislative Chairman Dave Donaldson. County legislators and leads of our Law Enforcement Public Safety Committee, Chair Legislator Eve Walter and Vice Chair Heidi Haynes, along with Ulster County Legislator Abe Yucatel. Thank you for being here from representing the county. I'm going to introduce some of the additional speakers in a moment, but in addition to Mayor Noble representing the City of Kingston from the Common Council, Alderwoman Rita Worthington, Alderman Doug Coop, Alderman Tony Davis, Alderman Rennie Scott Childress, and Alderwoman Michelle Hirsch. And then in terms of others that will follow me, and pardon me, I've only had 3 cups of coffee today, not my usual 4. Of course, Ulster County Sheriff Juan Figueroa, our District Attorney Dave Clegg, Mayor Noble. You'll also hear from Alderwoman Worthington and also from Pastor Medeli Clark. And I'll talk about this in a moment, but obviously this is a team effort, and so we thought it was really important to have the team here, and we appreciate you all being here and standing together. As I said, as I think we all recognize, we've had an incredibly difficult 16 months coming out of the pandemic. But as we come out of that, and as we rose as a community to get ourselves through the public health challenges, we now face another growing and I think urgent challenge, which is an alarming rise in violent crime, in particular in Ulster County and especially in the city of Kingston. And I think it's critical that we very directly and clearly say that we must bring an end to this escalating cycle of violent crime. And we're all here today to announce a major new initiative, and I think an innovative initiative to do just that. And this is the work of several months of really led by our law enforcement leaders, elected officials, and community members working to bring together what I think is a really creative solution. The team will be called the AVERT unit, which stands for Anti-Violence Effort Response Team. It really is a first of its kind, and as you can see, multi-agency and community-focused unit, and they will be laser focused on really disrupting and ultimately ending this cycle of violence and violent crime across the county. I think a lot of us feel like we've been reacting and sort of constantly bombarded, but rather than continuing to react for what has really been this tit for tat escalation of shootings and other violent crime, AVERT is going to take a proactive approach. We're going to really try to take the initiative back, led and really driven by the community. The unit will work with the community leaders and the partners here and many more across the county to combat violent crime, to stop the flow of illegal guns and weapons into our streets, and equally importantly, to offer alternative paths to especially our young people to get out of this cycle and off the path of violence. I'm now going to introduce Sheriff Figueroa and others to talk through additional details of the unit and its mission. But before I do that, I just want to say one more thing really directly to the residents of Ulster County. We all here hear you and continue to hear you and your concerns about this rise, particularly in violent crime, and the feeling that we're really, as I said, reactive, and that things continue to escalate rather than calm. And we're all here today because we recognize, I do, and I think we all do, it is our solemn responsibility to ensure public safety as a core of our mission as elected officials. So we hear that from the community. We hear these concerns. We're taking them seriously. We are taking this proactive approach. But what I think is really important and what makes us different and what I'm proud of is we're going to do this with our community. We're going to do it as a community. This isn't something that's going to be done to the community. It's going to be done by and with and through our community. The only way that we get that balance right and meet those twin imperatives I mentioned of both public safety and justice is to really do that, to do this in a different way, to do it in this proactive way, and to do it in a community-led approach. So that's really what AVERT is about, and I think this will really become a model for other communities in the state and in the country, we hope. So we're excited, and it's now my honor to welcome up Ulster County Sheriff Juan Figueroa.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, County Executive. I want to thank my brothers and sisters of law enforcement for being here and how important it is today of this proactive approach that really does involve the community. We know in the community who these individuals are, yet because there's no active case against them, we're waiting for them to do something. Instead of waiting, this program, AVERT, hence the word AVERT, is to ward off and know and find out a way to find these individuals and change their behavior and perhaps save some lives. The folks behind me are invested leaders. We all have a lot to give in this, both the community and law enforcement. And so I look forward to working with everyone here. I'm going to tell you a quick story as to how we got here. And it's been, this conversation was going on since May. Every Tuesday we have meetings, and that's myself, Chief Tinty, District Attorney, and one partner that's not here because they were busy is the state police. Every Tuesday we have a meeting with our community folks here in the city of Kingston. And there was a brave lady who spoke up, and she said that when she had a moment of clarity, because she had her own issues in her life, that she tried to get help for her son. Her son went through foster care, and with that, there were issues with physical and mental abuse, and he had no, basically he had a zero compass, no moral compass, and he ended up getting involved in crime out in the street. And when she picked up the phone to get this kid help, no one was there to give him help. Well, we're here to reach out to the community and get them that help. And this is extremely important that people understand that this is in partnership with the community. It's the community who knows who these individuals are, as well as us. But we cannot do this alone. So this is an innovative program that's going to give everything from social services to mental health to housing to GED to get those, to target the youth and point them in the right direction. And if it doesn't work, well, folks, if you commit a crime in the city of Kingston or in the village of Ellenville or in Ulster County, you're going to be held accountable. Simple as that. I think folks are tired of the midday violence that's been plaguing our county. And so this is a proactive approach to reach out to the community and say, hey, we're going to help you, but if folks don't want the help and we build our cases up, we're going to arrest you too. So I think you've heard enough. I do want to thank a couple of other folks that are here besides the state police who couldn't make it, but our law enforcement committee chair, Eve Walter, and her assistant deputy chair, Heidi Haynes. So thank you both for being here. Who's next, sir?
Next is our district attorney, Dave Clegg, who's also been critical to building this initiative and, of course, to operationalizing the initiative. So without further ado, Mr. District Attorney.
Once again, this is a moment to be proud of Ulster County. This is a new initiative that is using the best practices that we have across the country about addressing violence, especially gun violence, in our communities. It's something that we can focus on deterring the people who are highest at risk to commit these crimes. And as has been said, we have information as a result of law enforcement work as to who these persons might be before, in fact, they cross that line and commit a crime. So the concept is focused deterrence. We reach out to these people before they get to that place that they've committed a horrible crime or shot somebody or shot a gun in our community. And we reach out to them in a way that we offer them services. It's a two-pronged effort. And once you do that, you make a relationship with that person. And you use community leaders to build on that relationship. And you try and find a way to send that young individual who may be going the wrong way in a different direction. Job training, education, support of mental health or trauma-involved problems that they might have. All of this is involved in making our community a safer place. At the same time, it's a two-pronged approach. We let them know that you are on our radar. We know that you're crossing the lines in some areas. And that if you continue to do that, we promise you, unfortunately, we don't want you to go in jail. We don't want to put you in jail. But if in fact you cross that line, we will treat you very seriously. So my office offers that backup, that we will prosecute and convict you if you are involved in gun violence in this community. So that's what I say. We're a two-pronged effort. My office will provide both investigators and support in terms of prosecution, cooperating with all the law enforcement people in our community that are working and putting their lives online to make us all safer. And we want to make sure that we're doing this, as I say, in a way that involves the community, because without the community, we're not going to be able to successfully reach many of these people. But with the community, with the faith-based persons that care about everyone in this community, we can reach them and we can make a difference and we can save lives and we can change lives. So that's the focus of all that we're talking about, and thank you very much.
Before I introduce Mayor Noble, I want to very quickly just add a little bit of detail in terms of the composition. Both the sheriff and the district attorney talked about this and alluded to it, but to be specific, and we will have this in a release we'll put out shortly as well, but part of what makes this a really unique team is it's composed of detectives and officers from multiple agencies throughout the county, in addition to social services workers and mental health professionals from our county team, really bringing together all of those elements to, again, give folks the chance to really opt out of this cycle for violence and make sure that we're really giving those opportunities so that folks can de-escalate this cycle of violence. I especially want to thank Mayor Noble for his partnership in building this approach and his commitment to resource this team, help resource this team, and to work as a collaborative partner. So Mayor Noble, thank you.
We've seen over the last 2 years that gun violence has plagued our city. Innocent residents of our city have been injured, they have been killed, and we're here today to stand together to say that gun violence has to stop. And we are going to do everything that we can as a community to intervene. And this intervention program is modeled after evidence-based programs that have worked across the country but also right here in our very own backyard. I want to just take a moment to thank all of our partners, the county executive and the DA's office. We've modeled this type of program using our intimate partner violence intervention program right here in Ulster County. And because of that program, using these same type of steps and this same type of community partnership, we've been able to reduce that type of intimate partner violence. And so now we're here today to tell you that we're joining forces yet again to intervene and break the cycle of gun violence. We can do that together, but we really need to make sure that we have all of the tools necessary. And because of the leadership of the sheriff and all of our partners, we know that we're going to be able to do this. But I also I'm here to say today that we as a local community also need to be able to invest resources into this type of programming and into the type of community policing that we need here in Kingston. And so today I'm announcing that as part of this proposal and as part of funding our community policing initiatives, I'm going to be proposing to the Common Council later this month to add 3 full-time police officers to the City of Kingston budget right now. So that we can get this program and our other community programs staffed up appropriately, because our officers need the tools to support the type of community policing that our community wants to see. In order for us to be successful, we need to be able to do the investigative work, we need to be able to serve the warrants, but we also need to be able to be out there building relationships. We need to be able to talk to people on their front porches, and I just want to commend our Chief Tinty, our Deputy Chief Mike Bonds, for helping to guide this process and for not giving up, because this community, it doesn't stand for gun violence. It's not going to stand any longer for the divisiveness in our community related to this issue, because this cuts across party lines. No one wants to see this kind of violence. No one wants to see innocent people get hurt. And I think we're here today to prove to you that we are all in this together. So, thank you.
Building on the importance of this being a partnership at all levels of government, and I agree across party lines, if there's one thing we can agree on, it's that gun violence and violent crime, and in particular, losing 12-year-olds and 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds and younger than that to violence that they had nothing to do with is unacceptable. And that all starts at the ground level. And a leader in this work really that all of us follow and try to emulate, I know I do, is Rita Worthington. So Rita, thank you for being here. You're behind me. Can you step over here? Come on up.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Thank you, County Executive Pat Ryan. And so, as the speakers before me said, gun violence is plaguing our community. Time and time again, I find myself asking the question, what is going on? I pick up the paper, or I get a text message that yet another shooting has occurred in the community. Sometimes I've been sitting right in my own house and I've heard gunshots fired. And so, all of us should be able to feel safe in our homes, in our streets, in our neighborhoods, in our schools. Sitting on our porch, we should be able to feel safe. But yet there's so many who do not feel safe. And there's just been too many shootings. Shots fired in our county, shots fired in our city, in our neighborhoods, and in particular, this ward, the ward that I happen to represent, is where most of the gun violence takes place. So yeah, we want the guns off the streets, but we also want to take preventative measures by recognizing causation factors, trauma, connection and services, expanding access to high quality, culturally competent, coordinated social, emotional, and mental health supports by addressing the impacts of traumas. And so toward that end, I do thank the county executive, District Attorney Clegg, Mayor Noble, all the law enforcement, all the partners that's here to take those proactive and preemptive steps. In addition to, it's just very, I'm reading off of a paper, excuse me. I'm reading off of a script, but this is very personal. very personal. We've seen too much killing, too much shooting, too much violence in this community. I'm so happy that our partners, the law enforcement and the county and the city officials are collaborating to make this a community effort and community engagement effort, because you can't do it without the community. And toward that end, I think this initiative, AVERT, is going to work because it is based on bringing in not just law enforcement, but mental health professionals to engage with the community. And so thank you. I'm sorry for getting emotional, but this is an emotional topic. And it has affected me deeply because many of the people that have been affected by this gun violence, I know them personally. And so thank you for inviting me here to speak. Thank you. I'm sorry for messing up my script, but thank you for getting involved in this. This is very important, and I urge the community, especially the Fourth Ward, to come out and get involved and engage with our law enforcement and with our county officials. We're here to work together. We all want the same goal at the end. So please get involved. Thank you.
As I said, that's the lead that we're following. So Rita, thank you. And last but definitely not least, so much of the work we're doing, there's statistics and there's numbers and there's policies and there's programs. But as Rita alluded to, and as I'm sure Pastor Clark will speak to, this is a deeply human toll that we're dealing with, and the only way to get at that is by really engaging people on that human level and meeting them where they are and figuring out what they need to get them off of this path. And the spiritual and faith elements of that are critical as well. So Pastor Clark, we appreciate you being here, and please come up and join us. Thank you.
County Executive, City Mayor, our Sheriff, and all law enforcement, and all of you, brothers and sisters. I want to say that I feel like I'm on the brink of history because of the innovative and collaborative effort that I am witnessing today. And I want to share with you really quickly a story that sort of illustrates this, the need for AVERT. Many years ago, when I first started my ministry at New Progressive, a young man, 5 years old, very loving, smart, and his mother died suddenly. And we were able to see the metamorphosis from this loving, extremely smart child, to a hateful, violent, angry individual. And he started on a trajectory that saw him suspended from school several times. They tried to send him to a Christian school. That didn't work. He went back to Kingston High School, and he was eventually either dropped out or was expelled. This young man eventually ended up in a gang, because we went to his initiation. We saw the result of, he was pushed into traffic on Broadway as part of the gang initiation. And that became his life of further violence and hate. I didn't have the tools in my toolbox, my passion toolbox. It was way past my pay grade to know how to deal with him effectively, and so did everybody else that I knew. If programs like AVERT, and I'm really grateful and thankful for it, because no more, I can almost say with certainty that with the success of this program, that no, we shouldn't lose any more kids to the gangs or to the violence. This young man had a series of prison interactions, and I'm ashamed to say that I don't know where he is today. And I am building my hope for the success of this community, the life of this community, that this AVERT program is gonna make, can I say, a hell of a difference to this community. Thank you for all you do.
So again, thank you to everyone who's part of this. This is the beginning. We have a lot of work ahead. We need the community's participation and input. We need the good feedback. We need the feedback for improvement. We're trying something new here, and I think we're heading in the right direction, but we only get that right together. So as Rita said and others, please, we invite the community to be part of this and feel empowered by this. And we're happy to take a few questions for any of the speakers or otherwise at this point.
Is there a funding stream involved in this, or is it a different way of allocating existing resources?
And the mayor alluded to this a little bit, and I'll invite him up if you want to add more, Mayor Noble. Between myself and the sheriff on the county side, you will see in our budget proposal coming up additional resources at the county level focused on this, both on the law enforcement side as well as the mental health and public health side. So we're putting real resources, and we'll be putting real resources behind this. The mayor spoke to that. Do you want to add any more to that, Mayor Noble? And then I know our other participating agencies here, and I'd invite other chiefs to come up, are also committing both existing resources and possibly additional. So if other law enforcement partners want to come up, invite them up as well. But Mayor Noble, do you want to add to that?
Sure. I'll just add that we will be proposing to have 3 new full-time police officers immediately, as soon as we can get the council approval and get them hired up. And for the short term, we will be adding existing staff resources to this joint initiative.
He asked me if I wanted to speak. So anyway,
I know who to ask.
There you go. So like with Saugerties, our resources are going to be individuals' bodies, because every time we have a paradigm shift in the way that we do law enforcement, we have to have bodies to fill those positions, and we are committed to put, as we did with Oracle, which was a county initiative, to put people into this. And hopefully through our budget, we're going to have additional funding streams, and we're going to be able to add additional manpower. Because again, we don't want to wear ourselves too thin, because then we defeat our main objective. And I just want to say how proud I am of everybody in Ulster County, our residents, our county exec, our mayor, all of our law enforcement officials and the state police. We're really stepping up to the plate and recognizing that if we can go right to an individual at a young age, where the problems are just starting, where they're at that fork in the road, and that fork in that road is so important for everybody to understand, because the decisions and the influences that are around that individual at that time they approach that fork is really going to mold their life. And the outcome of that individual's life is based on that experience when they reach the fork in the road. And if we can be there to greet them and change the trajectory of their future, we're going to have a lot of good positive outcomes, and we will eventually see crime dissipate, and that's the whole main purpose of this initiative of AVERT. So thank you.
I just wanted to add another component to it that we briefly may have missed, and that is an educational component. There will be a school counselor, if you will, assigned to the team that will reach out to the middle schools, the high schools, and of course our superintendent of schools to identify the folks that are heading in the wrong direction, so we can get them help and move forward. This violence must stop, and this is one of the reasons why even at the county jail, where we have about 50 individuals that are incarcerated throughout the county that have been sentenced and going to be released, we're going to be speaking to them too, to try to get them to change their ways and get them to help if they need help. I just wanted to finish up with that, so thank you.
I just had one more question. Mayor, you mentioned the IPVI program. Is this a formal program in the sense that we're going to have someone from John Jay College kind of looking at the data as it is? We have someone I know working out of the DA's office that really kind of breaks down that data and tries to measure outcomes, or is just taking those principles and putting them to work, or is it like a formal out-of-the-box program through, I think it's a National Network for Safe Communities?
So my office has been involved in the IPVI program since 2017. It is a startup program that we are one of the few nationally to have done it. Started here in Kingston with a partnership with Kingston Police Department and my office. What happens in IPVI is that when the first domestic incident report happens, that there is contact from either my office, someone, an investigator, or a KPD officer to let them know that you've now crossed the line, that we want to offer you services. So this is a process that's already been in place for a number of years. It's had remarkable success. The John Jay group that oversees us, we actually meet with them on a monthly basis. They review all our statistics. They measure them against other programs that have happened across the country. Ours is one of the best throughout the entire country. So this is modeling a program that's been successful here in Kingston with the cooperation of law enforcement and district attorney's office. And so I think it's a really good starting place. So we know that it works. We know that it can be successful. We know it builds relationships. We know it pulls people out of that kind of behavior and into support and into areas where they get the treatment they need. So thank you.
And just to build on that, I think the idea is that this AVERT is, similar approaches have been used, but we are crafting this and building this here based on successful principles of other similar approaches. But as I said, we'll be improving this constantly as we go.
Thanks.
Other questions? Thanks, Jesse.
You talk about the violent crime and the level of violent crime, and this all seems to be sort of forward thinking, right? You're going to be trying to reach those youth before they commit crimes. But there is a real problem right now, and this doesn't seem to be addressing the real problem of gun violence almost daily in the city right now.
This is absolutely both. The twin imperative is both, as I said, not just safety and justice, but it's the immediate crisis that we found ourselves in, which, to be clear, as the sheriff said very clearly, we have zero tolerance for violent crime and violence in our county. We're going to give people the resources and the opportunities to move away from that cycle. But if they don't, we will absolutely, all of us, ensure that there's no safe quarter for folks that want to take violent action now. But we all recognize, and Rita hit on this very eloquently, that is sort of an immediate approach that will just repeat itself if we don't make the medium and long-term investments to break that cycle at a human level. So I'm proud that we're doing both in Ulster County, and I think that's what really makes this a really powerful and again, a community-driven kind of approach.
When I have just another question, I'm sorry. When you talk about the funding for this, are you talking about funding through taxpayer dollars that will be reallocated or allocated, or will you be getting support from outside for this program?
At this point, I can only speak for the county. This would be from our general fund. We do, of course, have significant state and federal programs and resources. For example, the GIVE program, which we talked about a few months ago, which is a gun-involved violence program. So we will draw on state and federal dollars, but this will be run as a county and other municipality programs, at least on our end.
Has bail reform really, I would say, has it really, as the laws that we have today, are they really addressing the whole, like, if you go and commit a crime, you're going to get punished, and it's not like, you're going to get a slap on the hand? So I just wanted to ask that question.
I'll definitely defer to the law enforcement experts. I don't know if you want to take that, Mr. District Attorney or Sheriff.
Of course, myself and the district attorney actually went up to Albany when the first bail reform law was passed and it was adjusted. Remember, no bail doesn't mean no jail. It just means that you have an opportunity to go to court. I think there's a misconception, though, when it comes to the effects of bail reform. And yes, there has been some effects. When there's a solid case against somebody and they know that it's a solid case and they're probably going to be sent to jail, they're probably going to continue to commit crimes. And that is something that occurs with this bail reform that's going to have to be looked at and adjusted. But we all also realize that individuals that commit the same crime, like petty larceny or something like that, and they both get, the same amount of bail, and one person walks because they can afford it, and the other one doesn't because they can't, is unfair. But yes, there have been some issues with bail reform that we can all agree in law enforcement that needs to be looked at again and readjusted, and that's a fact.
And just one more question: is any the American is any funding from the president going to help towards this?
I don't know. All I can tell you is, like the county exec said, that the funding is going to come from our general fund, as far as the county is concerned.
Yeah, and I'll say we're still very much in the process of looking at and formalizing, at least at the county level, those plans. I know the city is and other municipalities. I think it was great that President Biden did encourage and say that these funds could be used for public safety investments. And I know for us in particular, one of our big priorities was mental health and the intersection between mental health and public safety. So I definitely think within the proposal, at least that I put forward, I could see some of those funds helping to support especially the mental health aspects of this multidisciplinary approach that we're taking with AVERT. So I think that the short answer is yes, possibly.
Thank you.
We good? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Or do you have one last one?
I mean, when can we start to see this actually happening?
I'll defer to the sheriff on the timeline.
So of course, with something like this, if you think of Oracle, there's got to be memorandum of agreements between the agencies. I would say within the next 30 to 60 days, this will be in place. We'll just have to sit down and iron out the rules of engagement, if you will. But I think this is going to start up pretty quickly. Thanks again, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.